Sure, I'm down. D. Awesome, let's do this. Susie stood in her house, her mind and heart heavy as memories of her friends rushed through her mind. Loss still tugged heavily at her heart, longing for the companionship she had lost. Susie snapped out of her melancholy reflections, her focus shifting to Fawn's words. She glanced at her friend, confusion and surprise in her eyes at the mention of their friends' houses. What do you mean, what happened to their houses? She asked, her voice laced with worry and intrigue. Susie's heart skipped a beat at the horrifying information Fawn relayed. An icy chill ran down her spine as she tried to process what her friend was telling her. Wait, you're telling me their houses are empty and burned? She repeated slowly, dread and shock in her voice. Susie's mind raced as the implications of Fawn's words sank in. The thought of their friends' homes destroyed and abandoned filled her with a mix of horror and grief. Oh God, this is awful. I can't believe this is happening. She mumbled, her voice laced with a mixture of disbelief and sadness. Susie followed Fawn's horrified gaze, her eyes locking onto the source of her friend's shock and fear. Whoa, what the heck is that? She mumbled, her own voice laced with dread. Susie's protective instincts flared as she watched the horrible creature lunge at Fawn, her eyes narrowing in anger. Hey, what the hell? Back off! Leave her alone! She shouted, stepping forward to position herself in between Fawn and the creature. Susie stumbled back as the creature pushed her with unexpected force, a look of surprise and anger crossing her face. Ow. Damn it. She grumbled, her stance shifting into a defensive one as she kept herself positioned protectively in front of Fawn. Susie clenched her fist as the creature moved in front of Fawn, a mixture of worry and determination filling her heart. You're not getting to her! I won't let you hurt her! She declared firmly, her voice filled with protective resolve. Susie's mouth opened in a silent, pained cry as the creature kicked her below the belt. She stumbled back a few steps, gasping and clutching her between her legs. Ooh! Damn it, that hurts! She grunted, her voice strained. Susie's eyes widened as Fawn unleashed a string of curses at the creature. A mix of surprise and slight amusement on her face despite the pain in her groin. Whoa! Tone down the F-words, Fawn! She mumbled, trying to suppress a chuckle. But when Fawn suddenly whipped out the stupid Pingus video to show to the creature, Susie outright burst into laughter. louder as the video played and the creature protested, unable to handle the ridiculousness of it all. Oh my god, this is priceless. Keep going, Fawn. She encouraged. A wide grin spreads across her face. Susie's amusement quickly shifted into horror and anger as she watched the creature slam Fawn's balls. Her eyes widened in shock and disbelief. Whoa, hey! What the hell are you doing? Leave her alone! She shouted, rushing forward to intervene. But before she could reach the creature, Fawn crumpled to the ground in agony with a cringe-filled scream, falling silent as her soul released. Whoa, Fawn! No? Susie gasped as the creature suddenly grabbed her around her neck, a mix of surprise and fear crossing her face. She struggled instinctively against the tight grip, her hands flying up to claw at its hand around her neck. Ack. Let go, you bastard! She choked out, her windpipe constricted by the creature's hold. Susie stumbled backward as the creature abruptly let go, coughing and gasping for air as the tightness around her neck vanished. Her head snapped up at the sound of Cassie's familiar voice, eyes widening in relief and surprise as she watched her friend successfully kill the creature. Kassie, you came just in time. She managed to croak out, her voice hoarse from the creature's chokehold. Susie took a moment to catch her breath and regain some composure. The reminder of their altercation in the main universe made her slightly sheepish, but she shook her head quickly, waving off Cassie's apology. Hey, it's cool, really. You had every right to be upset. No hard feelings, she assured, her voice still a bit hoarse but warm with forgiveness. Susie's expression darkened, a pang of sadness lacing her eyes at the question. Memories of her missing friends flooded her mind, a shadow of pain passing across her features. They're gone. She mumbled, her voice laced with a hint of heartbreak. She took a deep breath, struggling to push through the grief. Their houses. They're all abandoned, and their houses are burned to the ground. They're nowhere to be seen. Susie nodded slowly, a mix of despair and acceptance in her eyes. She knew how incredulous this news sounded, but the reality of the situation was all too real for her. Yeah, it's true. They've been missing for a while now. And their houses. She paused, swallowing back the emotions that threatened to surface again. Everything's gone, Kassie. It's like they've vanished without a trace. Placed a comforting hand on Cassie's shoulder, her heart aching for her friend's sympathy and sorrow. She gave a small, sad smile, trying to provide some comfort despite the heaviness in her heart. I know. Trust me, I can hardly believe it myself, she murmured, her voice laced with a hint of pain. It's tough, you know? Not knowing where they are, or if they're even alive. Choked out, her vision blurring slightly as the sharp pain continued to throb through her chest. pain in her chest continued to throb, and she fought to speak amidst her gasping, ragged breaths. My chest. She managed to get out, her free hand trembling as she pointed towards her chest. My heart? It hurts. Susie's knees buckled as the intense pain in her chest intensified, her strength swiftly draining. The world began to spin as she fought to keep her bearings, but her vision blurred and darkened around the edges. Her voice faded to a pained, gasping whisper as she tried to speak once more. Oh God, my heart. Then her eyes rolled back, her body crumpling to the ground as she passed out, succumbing to the overwhelming pain of the heart attack. Susie remained unconscious as Ruby rushed her to the hospital, her body going limp in her arms. Her chest continued to throb painfully, the heart attack having left her in a state of unconsciousness. The only signs of life were the shallow, labored breaths that escaped her parted lips as they arrived at the hospital. Susie's eyes fluttered open at the sound of Aeon's voice, but her vision was still hazy and unfocused. The pain in her chest had dulled to a constant heavy ache, but she felt dazed and disoriented from the aftermath of the heart attack. Aeon? She mumbled, her voice gravelly and weak. My chest hurts like hell. Susie groaned softly as Shaffold started to attend to her, the touch of their hands on her skin bringing a flicker of awareness back into her eyes. The pain in her chest gradually receded under the medical treatment, her breathing becoming less strained as she glanced weakly at the figures around her. She whispered, her voice laced with weariness and a hint of relief. Susie's expression darkened at the mention of her missing friends. A pang of grief tugged at her heart, the realization hitting her again like a wave. She took a shaky breath, her voice laced with sorrow. Yeah, they're gone. Disappeared without a trace. She mumbled, the words catching in her throat as the pain of their absence resurfaced. I don't know where they are, or if they're even still alive. Susie glanced up at Aeon as he spoke, her expression weary but grateful for his concern. She took a moment to gather her thoughts before replying, a sad smile playing at the corners of her lips. It was a heart attack actually. A pretty serious one it seems. She explained, a hint of exhaustion in her voice. As for why it happened, I guess my heart just decided to crap out on me. Go figure. Susie let out a small sigh as Aeon informed her she had to stay in the hospital. She knew it was necessary for her own well-being, but the idea of being cooped up in a hospital room didn't exactly excite her spirit. Ah, I figured as much. She mumbled, a flicker of resigned acceptance in her eyes. How long do I have to stay here anyway? Susie's eyes widened as Aeon dropped that bombshell on her. Her heart sank at the news, the thought of her house being abandoned hitting her like a blow to the gut. She took a deep breath, her voice laced with disbelief and sorrow. Wait, what do you shock and pain. Susie's eyes widened as Aeon revealed the site of her house. The sight of her once familiar and cozy home, now abandoned and empty, brought a pang of heartache to her chest. She took a shaky breath, her voice wavering as she muttered, "What the hell?" She stared in shock at the empty, deserted place that used to be her home, her heart aching in her chest. Yep, got it. Susie's mind spun as she soaked in the reality of her situation. Her friends missing, her house abandoned, and now finding out she was in an alternate universe. It was like being hit by a tidal wave of surprises, one after another. Great, great. So not only are my friends missing, and my house abandoned, but I'm not even in my own goddamn universe anymore. She sighed, her voice strained with a mix of weariness and frustration. Susie let out a humorless chuckle at the realization that she was apparently the main protagonist of this sad story now. Of course, just her luck, getting thrown into an alternate universe as the main character of a tragic tale. Well, isn't that just the cherry on top? I'm the star of the tragedy now, she remarked dryly, a bitter edge to her voice. Susie took a moment to process the new information about her role in this alternate universe's story. Aeon as the Deuteragonist and Fawn as a supporting character. It was all too surreal. So, I'm the main protagonist, Aeon's second lead, and Fawn's a supporting character. Great, she muttered, running a hand through her hair in mild exasperation. Susie let out a small, weary sigh at Aeon's words. She knew it was the truth, but that didn't make it any easier to accept. The thought of having to face who knows what in this alternate universe as the main protagonist weighed heavily on her. I guess that makes you my trusty sidekick now, huh? She mused, a hint of dry humor in her voice. Grew heavy as she watched Aeon leave the room, a wave of fatigue washing over her. The events and revelations of the day had taken a toll on her, and her body ached for rest. She sank back against the pillows, feeling a wave of drowsiness overtaking her. "Man, I'm tired," she muttered to herself, before her eyelids finally fluttered shut, and she slipped into sleep. Standing before the three portals once more. The familiar sight filled her with a mix of confusion and recognition, her thoughts returning to the previous encounter with the portals. "Damn it, the portals again," she mumbled, her eyes narrowing as she studied the three options. "Alright. Left, forward, or right? Which do I choose this time?" She thought aloud, her voice laced with a hint of uncertainty. Susie's head snapped up as the announcement echoed through the corridor. She listened intently to the instruction, her eyes flickering between the three portals. After a moment of hesitation, she took a deep breath and turned towards the left portal. "All right then, left it is," she mumbled beneath her breath. A flicker of determination Susie recognized James. She paused, a flicker of surprise on her face, mixed with a hint of recognition. Wait, James? Is that really you? She mumbled, her voice laced with a mix of disbelief and relief. Memories flashed through her mind of their childhood as neighbors. The image of a younger James coming to mind. Susie jolted awake with a start, a gasp of shock escaping her lips. Her heart raced in her chest, her mind still reeling from the vivid nightmare. Breathlessly, she sat up in her bed, her eyes darting around the room as she tried to orient herself. What the hell was that? She whispered, her voice trembling slightly as she fought to collect herself. The horrific scenes of the dream still fresh in her mind, the sight of James' anger towards her haunting her. Widened as she spotted Fawn's soul appearing in the room. The sight brought a flicker of relief, and she let out a shaky sigh trying to calm her racing heart. Hey Fawn, yeah, I had a nightmare. She admitted softly, the lingering fear from the dream still evident in her voice. Took a deep, steadying breath, her mind replaying the horrifying scenes from the dream. A shiver ran down her spine as memories of the nightmare resurfaced, the fear gripping her heart once again. It was James. I saw him in my dream. He was yelling at me, saying that he killed my friends because of me. She explained in a trembling voice, her eyes filling with a mixture of fear and sadness. Susie nodded, a flicker of sorrow crossing her face as she confirmed Fawn's question. Yes, that's right. James was infected, and it drove him to do terrible things. It was like he wasn't himself, like the infection took control. She explained quietly, the pain of the memory evident in her voice. Susie watched curiously as Fawn appeared to have a sudden realization, her eyes narrowing in question. What is it, Fawn? She mumbled, a flicker of concern crossing her features as she observed the change in Fawn's demeanor. Susie's eyes widened with surprise and worry as she heard Fawn's revelation. The thought of Fawn's past death sent a pang of sadness through her heart, and she stepped closer to her friend's soul. Fawn, are you serious? You got a flashback about that moment? She mumbled, her voice laced with a mix of shock and concern. Susie's heart pang with further sadness at Fawn's confirmation, her concern for her friend's past trauma growing. She reached out to place a comforting hand on Fawn's soul, her voice filled with empathy and understanding. Oh Fawn, I'm so sorry. She murmured, her tone soft and gentle, trying to provide some reassurance. Susie returned the hug with a gentle squeeze, her arms encircling Fawn's soul tightly. She closed her eyes, a flicker of sadness still visible in her eyes as she held her friend close. I know, but still, it's painful to think about what you went through. She mumbled quietly, her voice laced with empathy and a note of protectiveness. Susie pulled back from the hug, a hint of weariness in her eyes as she looked at Fawn's soul. The events and revelations of the alternate universe thus far had taken a toll on her, both physically and emotionally. But despite the ordeal, she drew in a deep breath, pushing through the fatigue. So, this is it, huh? The end of the alternate season 1? She mumbled, a tinge of relief in her voice alongside the weary exhaustion. Susie let out a sigh, her weary body seeming to sag a bit with exhaustion. Despite that, she gave Fawn's soul a small smile, a flicker of determination in her eyes. Well, it's been one hell of a ride, that's for sure. She murmured, a note of wry humor in her voice.